Guys, welcome back. Happy Monday. Let's get started. Right, as usual, let's go through both the versions that we have and then see the probabilities of that happening. Last time we discussed that this was the trend line that's been acting as support. We broke down from that and we went back to retest it. Right. What happened this week? The market tried to, retest that trend line again before the market sold off there and hence has been selling off ever since. And that coincides well with our bearish. And last time I mentioned that the reason I was bearish is because I do think that trend line will act as significant resistance. And if we can break over that, and if this turns out to be another, rejection, the market is likely, going to be really bearish. And so far, so good. That's what's been happening, right? But again, that doesn't mean I don't expect a bounce, right? This, for example, is honestly something that I could totally see happen, right? Most people are bearish. I definitely know that when too many people are crowded into one trade, the trade may not work well. So I can certainly see like this is still a bear account, but it is short-term bullish, right? It's a bull in a bear account, right? I think this area here, this is basically an important level of support, right? What level is that? 4310, above 431, 432 on SPY, right? When we retest that, right, I will be watching. Like, just because I'm bearish doesn't mean I don't see both sides. I will be looking to see whether we hold or break this level. A break of this level will 100% send us down to 4,000, right? That's going to happen. You can see this was basically the area that we were ranging between. Right now we actually broke below this area, and that 4320 I mentioned. 4271, my bad, hold on. Okay, I'm on a shorter time frame. That's probably right. Yeah, I would say about 42712. Yeah, my bad. About 4271, right? Between 430 to 427, I will be watching this key area of support, right? I do think we will bounce the first time we test it. So you can definitely, play like a short-term time frame bounce and, get out of it. But whether that bounce holds, right? If it holds, we could certainly do something like that before we come back down, or whether we actually, just bounce and sell off like this bear count has, that will be important to see this week, right? And most of the setups, right, depending on what happens here, right, depending on which scenario plays out, most of the trade setups will likely bounce and sell off the same way as well. So keep that in mind, right? With that out of the way, let's go through some of the setups for this week. The first one is Datadog, right? The reason I like Datadog is because I think the earnings pump, gave us the perfect short entry. I personally have been shorting this since 180, and I plan to hold my puts, right? I have March puts, but the reason I think that is you can see we went to reject another key level, right? Key level of resistance. That's what we tested on earnings, right? And that honestly coincides with the B wave pump, right? This aligns perfectly with the fact that this could be a B wave before we have the C wave sell off, right? This would, again, as I mentioned, over 186, Datadog is bullish, and that would honestly depend on whether it sells off, holds as a support before it moves higher. Totally depends on whether ES can find support between 432 and 427. As I mentioned in the bull case, there are two sides to every story, but if my bear case chart plays out, I do think Datadog is one of the prime stocks that have a lot of room to the downside. So that's the reason, I said short below 165 with 155, 143, 130 targets. So that's my view on Datadog. That's the first stock that I think is going to sell off. We had gold last week, right, guys? And those calls did really well. And I do think there will be a continuation with a caveat, right? Let's zoom out on this chart of gold. And you can see that we have, been in this wedge. And last week, we actually, finally broke out. Again, this week, right? What's important is, are we going to hold this area? Personally, I would draw a line over the previous high, right? That's about almost 175, 174.6. If we break over this, that would also confirm the breakout out of this triangle, in which case we run to 183 really soon, right? But if we can't get over this area, it will come back into this wedge. So I still have gold calls because so far it's been playing out. No reason not to trust this chart, right? So that's the reason I have gold calls back on there. The next one is Tesla. We had Tesla puts last week as well, and it's played out really well. Again, this is on the channel that I've been watching. I'm sorry, I know there are a lot of lines, and this is my favorite face of Elon, but I'm at least looking for a move back to, the end of this channel, and that would put Tesla at about 750, right? And you can see we broke down from the switch. But again, I do want to make one thing clear, right, guys? If the bull version, I mean, a bull in a bear version plays out, like if this is your A, this in Tesla can easily be a B, same as SPY before it bounces, right? And that would be your, let me move this, let me remove this, let me remove this, right? In that case, Tesla could definitely do something like this, where it uses, let's say, about 800, 820 to 800 as support, bounces to about 1150 before it sells off. So again, keep your eye on the index for clues. I wouldn't rule this out, but I do, as I mentioned, I do favor the bear version, which shouldn't be a surprise. And that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. But again, don't forget that's possible too. So if you've been in puts since last week, make sure to have a trailing stop just in case it plays out the other way. So I have Tesla puts back on there because I do think it has a lot more room to the downside if the whole market as a whole is selling off. So that's the reason I have Tesla on there. The next one is Blink. Again, honestly, like this week, all I could see was bear setups on bear setups on bear setups. And I don't know if that's a good thing or if that's just my, bias playing out, but I'm, just be prepared for both sides. But I do see a lot of bear setups that are, willing to just break down and sell off. So for Blink, I do think it's gonna find resistance at the previous area. It rejected, right? So Blink breaks 23. I am expecting 20 and 18, right? So, and I did see a lot of put flow into Blink, so that kind of aligns with the chart as well. So it's kind of why I have Blink on here for this week. And we had Novavax last week, but it didn't really do anything, right? It's just kind of been sideways. So, which is why I'm putting it back in for this week, because the setup is still the same, right? The stock moving sideways just means it's just, you're not taking time to digest its price action. So I still expect the same thing, a break below 87. We'll see 80 and 70, right? I do think Novavax sells off and makes new low. So that's the reason I brought Novavax, back into this week's play. Again, I know a lot of people have been saying that marijuana stocks have been looking bullish, and they have, but I only think it's for a short-term bounce, right? I do have Tilray calls on here, right? If it breaks 7.4, I'm expecting it to move back to the top of the trend line. So about a 17% move on options is not bad at all, right? I am watching this channel, right? You can see we bounced, we go to the top of it. Every time we bounce off this channel, we go to the top of it, but we're bouncing here. So that's, as a result, I do think we could retest the top of this channel, right? If it can, hold over last week's high. So, but I am not bullish. Like, obviously, if we were to break this channel and move higher, then I'd reconsider, me thinking that marijuana stocks will make another low as well. But for now, I do have calls on here and just to the top of this channel, right? After that, we'll see, right? For now, I do think we could go to the top of the channel, but I'm not bullish, right? Just for a small bounce. The next one is Snow. So for Snow, personally, you can see that this is the trend line that's been acting as resistance, and we tested the top of it, and now we're selling off. I personally, and this bar is called an outside engulfing bar, right? Generally, when you see such a bearish bar, it's generally followed by a gap down and sell off. So that's the reason I have Snow on here, right? It does have a gap to fill at 276, right? So that's at least a $10 move to the bottom, but I do think we see 255 and lower with time, right? I think it will sell off continuing into earnings. So that's the reason I have Snow on here. And the last one is Snap. Snap definitely had its earnings bounce, similar setup to DDOG. I do think it sells off. And again, you can see there's a channel here, right? And right now Snap's rejecting at the top of the channel. A move to the bottom of the channel, which fills its earnings gap, is not reasonable. I mean, it definitely moved a lot more, I feel like, but at least 32, right? Fill this gap void. So that's what I got for Snap. Let's look at Fang, right? I just wanted to briefly go through Fang to show you guys why I am leaning towards the bear side, because you can see that this is something called a rising channel, right, on Fang. And we definitely broke down from the channel. We went to almost retested. We couldn't get that high, and we've been selling off, right? Generally, when such a channel breaks, I'll show you an example on Shop. Guys, this was the channel Shop was in, and the minute Shop broke this channel, boom, look what happened. Massive sell-off. It's down 40% since it broke the channel. And Fang basically makes up Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Netflix, Facebook, great. And when you have such a bearish chart on Fang, I don't see how I can be bullish on the market. The yields are selling off, but not too much. They're just kind of digesting price action. So I'm keeping my eye on the 10-year as well for clues to see at what point we might bounce, right? We are, selling off. So as I mentioned, that 432, 427 area on the SPY can provide support, a short-term relief, right? While yields cool off. But again, bigger picture, I do have yields still going higher, right? For me, I have a 3 finishing here before it bounces for another 5. So again, all plays into the picture. So this kind of just what I wanted to touch about. Thank you so much. And I'll see you guys next week.